On this episode, we feature Tom Paladino. He wants to discuss scalar energy and how it is perhaps the blueprint to the universe. Tom has over 25 years of research on this topic. I'd like to think he's a historian on the topic. He was on one of our previous episodes, episode 80. So if you haven't heard that, please go back and check that out. He's using his understanding of scalar energy and types of technologies to kind of help others in healing ways. So I'd like to discuss some things with him today with that. And I'd just like to welcome Tom Paladino to the show. How you doing, Tom?
I am well, and it's a pleasure once again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being on. So what have you been up to here recently?
As the world turns, we're coming out of this pandemic, thank God. And I say this is a time of hope. I say that the world sees a hope at the end of the tunnel here. Let's hope for a better world. And to that end, as a researcher, my work, I want to make this a better world. That is my purpose. That's the whole purpose behind this technology, to advance mankind. We'll explain that in detail.
I love that. And so I went back and listened to our last interview, and I still have a little bit of trouble kind of wrapping my head around what exactly scalar energy is. So maybe for the audience, can you describe what scalar energy is?
It is esoteric. What is it? It's not electricity. I'm working with an energy that's not electricity or magnetism. I believe it's the energy of God. I believe this is a divine energy. And I can essentially prove that, at least in theory, because this energy is everywhere. It's omnipresent, and only God can be omnipresent. So many people might refer to scalar energy as, say, prana or 0-point energy. Some people call it quantum energy. Some people call it consciousness or Om or creative strength. So bear in mind, we're not working with electricity. We're working with a different spectrum of energy. And on account of that fact, this energy observes different laws than that of electricity. So it's really a mind shift here. It's a paradigm shift. And you have to consider that there's two energies.
That's interesting. And that somewhat makes sense to me, because I think, in when you break everything down, we are just energy, and a lot of things, kind of the universal thing is energy. Is this scalar energy in some way scalable or measurable at this point?
No, and I don't know if it ever will be measurable, because when you measure something, you need a finite quantity. You need a basic unit. You need a unit of account, a unit of measurement. And if scalar energy is infinite, you can't measure the infinite. For instance, if you're trying to measure volume, there's a liter or the gallon, or distance, the meter or the mile. Scalar energy is infinite. So what basic unit would you start to measure the consciousness, the omnipresence of God? I don't think we can measure it per se by a basic unit. We can measure, or at least detect its change. Sometimes it has a greater concentration. Sometimes it's a weaker concentration. But again, wrap your head all around this. This is an infinite paradigm, and you cannot measure the infinite.
Now, you mentioned that it's perhaps greater or weaker at times. Is belief have anything to do with the influence of the strength of it?
Yes. And let me boil this down and make this very simple. Human thinking is really a process of scalar energy. If you've ever, just consider what allows us to think, reason, what allows us to compose a poem. Where does creativity come from? It has to be some type of instruction or consciousness. That consciousness is scalar consciousness. So the fact that everybody can think serves to prove that scalar energy is in our mind. It's responsible for all cognitive thought. So everything in the universe has an instruction. Everything in the universe is really underpinned by some type of intelligence. That is scalar energy. And that's why this is so important. If we can look at the universe and say, what is the driver? What is the motivating principle behind everything? It's scalar energy, which is consciousness.
That's interesting. That brings me to a particular thought. There's some doctors out there and people that are kind of pushing for this. It's kind of like healing through consciousness or through like positive thinking, kind of like Dr. Joe Dispenza. Is that what essentially you think people are tapping
Yes.
into, is scalar
Yes,
energy?
precisely. Dr. Joe Dispenza speaks frequently of perhaps the quantum field or consciousness. So what is that? Let's just say it's instructions. Well, what do I mean by instructions? It's universal instructions. These are the instructions of the universe. That's what I'm working with, the instructions of the universe. And again, why is that important? Well, everything begins with an instruction. I frequently use the example, before you build a home, you have instructions, you have blueprints, you have a design. You just don't show up on the job site and throw something up. So the point being, everything in the universe has scalar instructions. That's the way God designed the universe. Everything has an intelligence. First comes the intelligence, then the physical manifestation. That's why it's so important. That's why many people, even Joe Dispenza, realizes what you think about, how you intend something is what will follow through.
Yeah, that makes sense. That was a good explanation. So how have you helped people, because you use different types of technology along with scalar energy, right? Is there certain things that you're doing to, kind of help your clients?
Yes, exactly. So I've developed scalar energy instruments. And what's the point? Well, now I can actually control this energy. Yes, the human mind is one way to control this energy. The human heart is another way. It's a scalar energy vessel, but I have scalar energy instruments that control this paradigm. And in so doing, I can control consciousness, at least to some extent. And with that, I mean intention. If my intention is to balance the brain waves, my instrument will do that. If my intention is to balance the meridians, many people believe that we have meridians or chakras, then this instrument, scalar energy, these instructions will balance the brain waves and those chakras in our body, those 7 chakras. So this is the way, as far as I'm concerned, to mental health in the future. A scalar energy instrument working through this realm of consciousness will help us with mental health, will help us with our chakras. Now, keep in mind, I want to make this very clear. Everything I do is by way of information. It's non-physical. This is not a biological process. If you speak to Dr. Joe Dispenza, I can't speak for him, but when he refers to the quantum realm, I think he likewise believes in consciousness, which most of us believe is non-physical. It's not, as far as I'm concerned, it's not biological. I'll speak for myself. This is not a biological process. It's actually much, much more refined than a biochemical process. Thank God it is.
Yeah, I think you touched on something important. I think, perhaps at our very core and our very existence, we're not biological at all. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense that, that you can kind of, heal your way in that way. And I think in a lot of ways, we're kind of going about it wrong, right? In the medical industry and things like that, because we're always trying to fix the physical ailments through a biological means, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. If everybody realized that everybody's a healer, everybody's a genius, everybody has incredible capability. I mean that. We just haven't tapped into the fact that we're healers, that we're geniuses, that we have incredible abilities. I think that's all been God-given. I think in many ways, and don't be offended by this, we've dumbed ourselves down. Well, I want to uplift mankind. I don't want to dumb down mankind. So, and I believe scalar energy is that pathway to higher enlightenment. It's an energy that only produces good. The end game, the upshot of all scalar energies, this divine energy, it only produces good. There's no negative downturn here. There's no negative side effect. So that's why I've devoted a career to this.
So can you maybe talk a little bit about your process, maybe how you kind of merged your technology with the use of scalar energy?
Yeah. Again, the key to my work is I'm working with instruments, scalar energy instruments. Now, I want to, before I get into it, everybody with a mind and a heart, everybody has the human mind and human heart are far superior to my instruments. What's the point of my instrument? To demonstrate to mankind in the scientific venue that this is real. Okay, a lot of people, they say, well, that's theoretical, that the mind and the heart have intention, and intention can influence the universe. Well, I have a scalar energy instrument that can influence the universe. And if my instrument can influence nature, then likewise, the mind and the heart can influence nature, can influence the universe. So with that setting in place, my scalar energy instrument has been shown to balance brain waves. My instrument can actually assemble nutrients. We can put to place into that intention. We can create a vitamin. Or in reverse, my scalar energy instruments have been shown to break down, to control, if you will, mandate over germs, pathogens. A scalar energy instrument can be instructed to break down a virus or a bacterium. You start putting all of this into context, all of that is life enhancing. Now, keep in mind, it's not a biological process, it's an informational process. So some of you in the audience, you might say, I don't want another drug. I never work with drugs. This is not surgery. This is not massage. This is a new way of looking at science. It's a new and emerging science in which everything is information, because consciousness information dictates the outcome.
That's fascinating. With that being said, then it's almost as if we're kind of like authors in our own book, right?
Yes, we are. And people need to realize it. Exactly. Go on.
It's just so hard, I guess, because we've just been taught since day one that that's not how the world works or the universe works. It's hard to wrap. I don't know. I guess it's hard for people's minds to wrap their mind around it. At least for me, it is. I know, like, I'm a big fan of Joe Dispenza, and I've got some my own health issues, and I try to, kind of use a lot of his practices, but at sometimes I still catch myself like having a hard time to just fully believe in the process.
Yeah, it's some people, if you recognize that some religions look at faith, look at intention as being supreme, or at least the motivating force in all spiritual activity, there's credence to that. Faith can overcome any obstacle, and it's just a matter of how we apply that intention, apply that faith, or apply that consciousness. The more I get into this, the more I'm convinced our thoughts and our feelings influence the universe more than we could ever imagine. Yeah.
That's really exciting and powerful in many ways. It's empowering to people. I often wonder if, not to get into conspiracies, but that perhaps some of the powers to be or others that maybe know of this type of thing don't want to share it with the world.
They don't. There has to be some type of concerted effort to keep this under wraps. If this is really the universal principle, this consciousness or this life force energy of God, if this is going to unite mankind, the powers that be do not want to see a united mankind. This is why you see so much of the divide and conquer philosophy today. Even in the media, it's, there's one problem after another. I'd much rather see the media solve problems than create problems. I'd much rather see people in this world solve one problem than create or complain. And I think you're right. If I look at this world as 7.9 billion people, and I say so frequently, if people work together, it would be so different. If people stop fighting, the downfall of mankind is war, fighting. Once you fight, a nation can't survive, a country can't survive, the world can't survive, a marriage can't survive. Once you start fighting, once you're no longer united, you can break apart any company, any corporation, any family. But united, my goodness, I've seen some families that are united, countries that are united, corporations that are united. They're unstoppable. It's just you can do anything.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I think lost my train of thought here. You'd mentioned that maybe the healing properties of scalar energy, things like maybe killing pathogens, viruses.
Yeah.
What are some other things that you've witnessed or seen that it can do to people to heal, as far as healing goes?
Yeah, I've seen this energy, and again, this is corrective energy. It's intelligence. Many people have said that after a scalar energy session, that they no longer have a desire for alcohol, or if they did have a drinking problem, they're not so inclined to overdrink. There's moderation now. So consider that a scalar energy process, a scalar energy session, working through information only, serves to attenuate a person's desire for alcohol. Well, in many ways, that's prayer, or that's intention, or that's, say, a pep talk. Call it what you will. It puts us back in harmony with ourselves, in harmony with nature. I've had this response from so many people. Now, bear in mind, I'm a scalar energy researcher. I have nothing to do with drug counseling or alcohol counseling. But many people have said the scalar energy sessions have allowed them to kick the habit of drinking, excessive drinking, or drugs, marijuana, or some other type of recreational drug. So there has to be something about what so many of these thinkers are saying, quantum intelligence and quantum programming. It works. It works.
It's almost as if it gives you balance.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Just look in the past. Look at all the people who have been favorable to your life, Dylan, and the people who've given you coaching and people who've given you instruction. All of that's nothing short of a guidepost in your life. Without our parents, without our teachers, without our religious leaders, we don't have those guideposts. We would be lost. So we don't see the forest through the trees, but these constant instructions, these constant lessons that we've been given throughout our life have shaped us, have molded us. And here we are today, and we are really a product of what we've been taught by our superiors or by our contemporaries, if you will.
Yeah, I can see that. And I can also see, even, before I kind of got into hosting a podcast and just kind of understanding consciousness a lot better than I did. I think I noticed like that the medical industry just seemed all wrong to me, always. Like as far as, and medicine and the side effects and the different, issues that medication can cause.
I agree. And let me put this into context. And let me issue a caveat first. I have a high respect, I'm sure you do, high respect for the nurses, the physicians, the hospital staff, the researchers,
Absolutely.
everybody in the health field. I don't care if you're a chiropractor, a naturopathic doctor. I have a high regard for all of you. God bless all of you. There's a problem, though, with organized medicine. It's the Rockefellers. The international bankers are the problem with the medical model. And these evil people who try to influence the medical industry and do it for money and do it for profit, who don't care about our health, who are simply out there to make money off of us in the medical model. That's the problem with the medical model. So the problem with I'll speak for the United States. I live in the United States. I've seen it every day. The problem with modern day medicine is not modern day medicine. The problem with modern day medicine is the Rockefellers who are trying to control modern day medicine. The problem is the Rockefellers.
Yeah, it's almost as if it's sick care, it kind of, you maybe take something to cover up a side effect or an issue you're having, but it never really fixes the problem, never really gets to the core root of your whatever issue you're having. And it's almost as if it's designed to keep you sick and even make you sicker over time.
Yeah, you're right. Now, let me explain my statement. This powerful family, the Rockefeller, they controlled the pharmaceutical industry. It was a concerted effort over 100 years ago to really undermine any type of natural medicine, whether it's nutritional medicine, homeopathic medicine, etc. And this evil family, the Rockefellers, to this day control many of the universities, the medical universities. So if you really do your homework, people, you're going to see that there's an evil family or a collection of evil families that are influencing medical policy, and in so doing, we the people, we take the short end of that. We suffer because it's not about health; it's about the Rockefellers making money off of our health problems.
Yep, and you're absolutely right. They've infiltrated the universities, and it's just kind of, taught in all aspects of the medical field is the, kind of push these drugs that aren't necessarily, good for mankind. Back to the scalar energy, I had read that it perhaps even opens up fields or removes blockages.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, going back to how some of our clients have said that they no longer have a desire for alcohol. Well, that's really some type of imbalance. If you have an excessive desire to drink alcohol, that's unnatural. So how do we correct that? Through information. And so to me, that's a block in which we're not allowing nature to take its rightful course, or we're abusing nature. Let's face, many of these pharmaceutical drugs are also addictive. How do we get away from that addictive quality? By reprogramming the mind with energy, And that's what I love about my work. It's non-physical. I work in the quantum realm. I want to make this clear to your audience. Now, keep in mind, scalar energy is not electricity. I access a person through a photograph through their quantum field. This photograph has my quantum energy. I only work with photographs of people because I don't work in the biochemical realm. I work in the quantum realm. So in other words, I'm working with what I would consider the energetic copy of a person, which is their photograph. I don't work with people. I work with their bilocated version or the quantum copy. Now, a lot of people might say, what's the point here, Tom? We have an energetic copy. This is my flesh and bone, but there's also an energetic copy. And once we realize that there's an energetic Tom, including a biological Tom, then we're going to make really a lot of progress. It's really our spirit that I'm treating. And this is what Joe Dispenza and these other people are teaching, that we have a quantum body. Okay? They're not referring to surgery or pharmaceutical drugs. It's per se not a physical process. Now, at least this is what I've gleaned from many of these people who speak about scalar energy. They're not speaking about the physical body. They're speaking about the non-physical body. Well, if some of you are religious or you have perhaps a Christian faith, you might call that your soul. If you don't come from a religious background, you might just call that your consciousness or your psyche. And keep in mind, if everything starts with instructions and then the physical universe follows, well, I've always said, why not concentrate on the instructions, the cause, because the effect always follows through.
It's well said. I've seen reports of a device called, I don't know, you may have are familiar with this, called the Spook 2. Are you familiar with
I,
this at all?
I've heard of that device. I don't know how it operates. I'm
Okay.
not at liberty to speak about that.
I was just curious because it was just saying something about how it transmits 3 different ways of scalar energy. And I was just curious if you knew anything about that or could touch on that. Okay.
I'll speak to that point. There are many people who are now aware that scalar energy is a reality. Physicists call it a longitudinal wave or torsion energy. Another term is scalar energy. So what's my point? This is a valid scientific principle, but we're just learning about it. This is new to even to most scientists, not to their fault. And you're going to hear of many devices, many techniques in the future using scalar energy. It's, if you imagine 150 years ago when electricity was first harnessed, people were excited about it. It was a new prospect. Well, scalar energy is now being harnessed. Likewise, it's a new prospect. As far as I'm concerned, scalar energy is going to be the next iPhone. It's the next computer.
That's interesting. Now, your thoughts on the importance of meditation in scalar energy? I mean, they got to be connected, right? In some way.
They're identical. They're identical. And, everybody, I'm sure you have a different walks of life who are watching this podcast. And some people are very spiritual and they'll spend time meditating or praying every day. That's great. And others simply just say, well, I don't have time for that. That's not the way I am. But nonetheless, people, whether they like it or not, you're meditating every day because you're thinking about something, whether it's your business or your wife or your kids. And obviously, most people are of good cheer and people have good thoughts and good intentions. Even when you're having a favorable dinner with a family member, to me, that's meditation. You're breaking bread, you're having a nice conversation. That's meditation. This is why so many people enjoy sharing a meal, because usually you don't fight at the dinner table. You enjoy a tasty meal and you meditate with one another. That's to me, a meal is really prayer in action, meditation in action.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Can you perhaps maybe, without, obviously giving away any personal identification, but could you maybe talk about maybe some of the accounts that you've witnessed with your work and helping people?
Yeah, we are now working full force. Once again, the pandemic's over. We're now working full force with an HIV/AIDS clinic in Delhi, India. We were working with this clinic prior to the pandemic. And every week I receive 100 or 200 photographs of people. Many times the photographs are placed on a collage. Now, keep in mind, my instrument will access a person's energy by way of their photographic signature. So everybody that I've worked with at this HIV/AIDS clinic in Delhi, India, by way of their photograph, everybody's feeling better, everybody. And those who have a follow-up PCR test, the polymerase chain reaction test, after the scalar energy sessions, everybody is HIV negative or no viral load. Call it no viral load.
Wow.
Now, you're right. That's a wow. Everybody. Now, again, I've worked with over, say, 2,000 people at this clinic in Delhi, India. It's called Om Prakash. And this will be probably the first clinic that will provide at least some type of information or some type of indication that something is favorable with scalar energy. You might call this subjective because we still don't understand. We cannot objectively measure the energy. So this might be some type of a clinical trial that is of interest, but it cannot be proven according to Newtonian physics. Well, no, I'm not practicing Newtonian physics, but subjectively, this clinic is reporting great results. Everybody that I work with is now HIV undetectable. Now, what are the odds after working with 1,000 or 2,000 people, and anybody who has a follow-up PCR test, they're HIV undetectable?
It's almost as if it seems like it's proof that it works.
Yeah,
Would be my take on it.
I would say so. After
Yeah,
thousands of people.
yeah. So how many sessions do you typically do for people? Is it just a one-time thing? Is it something that people have to kind of follow up with you on?
I believe in introducing this to mankind and letting people make the decision. So the website has 15 days of free sessions. Anybody in the world can visit our website. You're going to send us your photograph for a quantum session. This is not biological. It's not a biochemical process. Your photograph shows your signature or your energy field, and I access your spirit or your quantum body. So for 15 days, anybody can receive free sessions. We balance the chakras, we eradicate microbes, germs, and we create nutrients. We do all of that in the scalar energy spectrum, which is not related to the electromagnetic spectrum of biochemical processes. So this is if you will, a energetic process.
That is fascinating. Yeah, for the listeners out there, I want to encourage everybody to, check this guy out, especially if you're struggling with something that, maybe you can't get over, or, you've had a hard time dealing with, and, perhaps, regular medicine isn't working for you, give this a try and see what happens. Just have some faith and give it a shot. And you never know. It could sounds like it could possibly change your world.
Yeah, yeah. It will. Why? Because it's instructions, and nothing can impede non-physical instructions. Keep in mind, your thinking, your emotions are non-physical instructions. Nobody can impede what you think or what you feel. That's scalar energy. And that's why this energy is supreme. Nobody can prevent a thought. Nobody can prevent a feeling. So once people realize that they are masters of their destiny, that people, the way they think, the way they feel will really in many ways determine their destiny. Just be happy, people. Do the best you can. Stop fighting. Think well, feel well, have the proper disposition. It'll change the world.
Tom, what is it about you that makes you want to help mankind in such a way?
Yeah. I come from a Christian background, and I see that when you help people, and when you make a concerted effort, whatever my ability, that the world changes. And if 7.9 billion people would all work together, we would change the world. The problem in the world, you can quote me, the problem in the world is that we fight. If mankind stops fighting, and if 7.9 billion people get along, we'll have paradise.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating. Well, you've cleared up a lot for me, and hopefully for the audience as well. Thank you again for taking the time out. I know you're a busy guy. Where can you maybe give your website, your information? Where can people get a hold of this work that you're doing, and hopefully get some sessions and get healed?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your effort once again today. The website is scalarlight.com, SCALAR, scalarlight.com. Go to the website, read some of the articles, and then I promise you it's free. There's no obligation. You can send your photograph and that of your pets. You can send photographs of family members with their permission. Let me prove to you that this consciousness approach works. Let me prove to you that there are instructions that we can download, so to speak, and improve your psyche, improve your, what I would consider your quantum health. Let me prove it to you.
Yeah, I know I'm going to try it here, and you probably have another fan. Thank you again for taking the time to do this. I know it was short, but I think it was a really sweet interview, and I think we really nailed the points here, and we're getting the message out. So that's what's important.
That's the key. And we worked together. There was no fighting.
Absolutely. Thanks,
Thanks,
Tom.
Dylan.
Yep.